Just doing a mic check. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
All right, perfect. We'll start now. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to Crypto World Radio. My name is King Wabi the First. I am here joined by Neutron.org. If you're tuning in from YouTube, be sure to like, comment, any sort of feedback, and click that subscribe button and turn on those bell notifications if you want to be updated daily on our uploads. We have a morning show, an afternoon show, and another show at 4 p.m. And then myself here on Twitter Spaces, Monday through Friday, usually at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. But when we do have special guests, such as today, it typically varies by a couple of hours. And we're joined here by our friends Feel Pain and Soy. If you guys want to connect with us more, go ahead and go to the Because Bitcoin website. You can read some articles by our writers, and you can find links to our Discord where we have over 800 members. You can typically find me in the voice chat interacting with our members. Shout out to our BB Chads, TB, Nicholas. What's going on, Babel? I see we have our friend Nicholas here. It's great to be joined by you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Hello to all our listeners. And Neutron, how are you guys doing today?
Hey there.
Yeah, pretty good. Cold. It's like -8 degrees in Manchester, and it's like 3 a.m. So it's not perfect timing, but it's it'll be okay.
How are you today, Soy?
Yeah, pretty good, mate. Like I say, just a little bit cold at the moment. It's kind of cold here at the moment, but it's good. Looking forward to the chat.
Well, man, hopefully my soothing voice and the soothing voices of the amazing BB community can warm you guys up.
I'm sure it will.
So, all right, brother. I guess let's get down to business. I know you guys are building the core infrastructure of the DeFi hub across the cosmos. Go ahead and introduce yourselves. You guys have the floor.
Okay, cool. I'm Soy. I'm the community manager for Neutron. I'm currently sort of managing all the Discords and Telegrams and all that kind of stuff, and arranging these spaces and stuff. You've got just down there Neutron, which is our general manager, Spade. He's like the main man running things at Neutron. So he'll be able to give you a good overview of the chain and what we've got planned and things that we got in store and stuff like that.
Thanks for the intro. I go by Spade. And just to touch on Neutron itself in a nutshell, it's a couple of things bundled together. It's a smart contract platform. So, like Ethereum, it's a place where you can launch any application that you can put in code. It's also an infrastructure layer that essentially allows smart contracts to finally interact across chains, to do things, to retrieve data so that they can do so in a concerted manner, in a coherent manner, which they were not able to do before. And I guess the last thing, it's also the first chain to be interchain secured by the Cosmos Hub, which makes it more secure, allows it to provide a higher degree of security at a lower cost to the projects that launch on top of us, and also means that we're doing a lot of work to make sure that interchain security as a whole is well conceived, that we're taking everybody's interest into account, trying to defend the small validators, make it profitable for the hub community, for the consumer chains, and making sure that we can make like a sustainable and profitable for everyone kind of like economic zone around the hub.
Perfect, man. Thank you for that introduction. So I know that when you guys launch, it'll essentially be millions of Atom securing the hub. And I'm aware that Polkadot has something similar to the parachains. What is it exactly that separates what you guys are building in comparison to something like the parachains on Dot and Kusama?
That's a good question, actually. So you're right in that ICS is fairly similar to the to the architecture of Polkadot itself, which has kind of like one main chain that provides the security to other chains. This is very similar. Now, I think the main difference here is that in the case of Polkadot, the entire ecosystem is turned inwards around other chains that participate in, the relay chain and the parachains of the Polkadot ecosystem. Whereas in Cosmos, because of IBC and because of how central it is to Neutron, the whole thing is actually much more outward facing. So we kind of have these two sides where, on the one hand, there will be a lot of collaboration and work being done together to kind of like leverage some of the properties enabled by interchain security in terms of making a faster IBC within this kind of like subset of Cosmos that is the Cosmos Hub and its consumer chains. But also, it provides infrastructure for smart contracts to interact with the rest of Cosmos and eventually the rest of crypto via IBC once that lands. And there are very good protocols working on this right now. Composable and Polymer are some of these, kind of like helping bring IBC to other ecosystems.
Awesome, dude. Perfect. So from what you've described, essentially sometime next year when you guys go live, the infrastructure to build sort of like an Aave or a compound market sort of platform that would enable those sort of protocols to be built on Cosmos. Because like with Aave, you're able to use different forms of collateral. You can use Aave, you can use Ethereum, and I know they have some sort of implementation with AVAX. Would this be possible to build on top of Neutron? And if not, what projects are reaching out to you guys to build on top of you? Like what sort of like DeFi applications have you guys been in contact with throughout this process?
So yeah, this is definitely something that you can build. I think like more than just so currently if you look at Aave, you have Aave on multiple chains, right? But none of these deployments actually talk to each other. And so every market is a specific separated market, and they don't benefit from the fact that they exist on multiple chains. So for example, if you're looking to borrow a specific coin, but that there's no one lending that coin on the market that you're interacting with, you're not going to be able to borrow that coin unless you bridge your collateral, deposit it into the other market, and then borrow the asset that you want. The whole point of Neutron is that, one, with the same set of smart contracts, you can not only provide these services on the chain where they're launched on Neutron, but also on other Cosmos blockchains that are connected via IB. So you can potentially be on Juno and still interact and use services that are on Neutron in a somewhat seamless manner. You just, go to the interface, you connect your wallet, you pass the transaction, everything is routed in the background at the infrastructure layer. So you as a user don't need to care about bridging back and forth and all of the cross-chain complexity that is required to do these things safely. So that's the first thing. Like you could have Aave on multiple chains with only one set of smart contracts, and that kind of like talk to each other. Yeah, I guess that's one of the main advantages, I guess.
Beautiful, bro. I'm absolutely loving what I'm hearing. I know you had mentioned some bridging. So, like, how exactly does the bridging process work, given that, like, there's no need to bridge back and forward? I'm sorry if that, like, sounds like not a such high quality question, but I'm really interested to know that, given that, there's been many issues over the last like year and a half where a lot of bridges have been exploited. How are you guys like focusing on the security of those bridge transactions from chain to chain across the hub?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So there's a few key things here. First, like, how does it work? It works over IBC. So there is indeed a bridge underlying all of this, right? The difference being that IBC as a bridge is slightly conceptually different from most of the bridges that we've been accustomed to and that have been hacked in the past. The main difference being that in most circumstances, most bridges rely on a subset of trusted entities like validators or kind of like either third-party kind of like computers or even kind of like a multi-sig in some cases. IBC doesn't have this at all. Instead, it relies on light clients. And what is that? You essentially have representations of the other chain on each side of the IBC channel. And these representations are able to verify the block headers of the other blockchain in order to make sure that the messages that they're getting from the other side are valid, essentially. And that's a pretty strong security guarantees, because it means that as long as you trust the chains on both ends of that channel, you don't actually need to trust IBC itself. You just need to trust that the two chains are secure. So that's one of the main differences. At the same time, IBC is still relatively new, right? So it's being looked at by dozens of teams. It's being in production for more than a year. It's implemented like across most 50 blockchains or something at this point, and so that makes it fairly well battle tested. That being said, it's a new technology in terms of like the story of humanity, and so obviously we need there is a continuous effort there to continue making it more robust. And this is something that Neutron itself shares, right? It's a new technology, and so we're taking all the steps that we can to make it as secure as possible. We've been audited already by Oak Security. The final report has been published on our Twitter recently. We're a few weeks from finalizing the code base of Neutron ahead of launch, and so we'll be submitting that finalized code base to yet another audit with Informal Systems, which is one of the greatest kind of like builder teams in Cosmos in early January, basically.
Beautiful, bro. Beautiful. Thank you for such an amazing response. And just a little bit of background myself. I've been in the market for about 5 years now. And the Cosmos ecosystem is something that stuck out to me very early on within my first few months. And what attracted me to the ecosystem was the Internet of Blockchains pitch, where essentially you'd have all these chains interacting with each other within one hub. And, I remember last year when we had things like Thorchain, when we had things like Osmosis, when we had things like Terra, and we had things like Kava. And one thing that Cosmos has always been known for is the beautiful UI. So, I'm really excited to have you guys up here. And where I really wanted to touch up on is when it comes to the Neutron token, what sort of utility would users be able to interact as far as the token? Like, what are some things that we'd be able to do? And also, like, what would be the main utility of the token itself?
Well, so there's a few. I mean, one of the core reasons why the token was definitely needed in the first place was that because of how interesting security works, without that token, it would have meant that all decisions had to be taken by the Cosmos Hub community, which would, one, make Neutron itself way less independent and able to kind of like steer its ecosystem in the direction that it wants, but also that there would have been like tremendous overhead for the Cosmos community and its validator set. So that's something that we wanted to avoid. So Neutron tokens will be used, one, for governance. They will be bought back and burnt with the transaction fees regularly. Well, I mean, basically constantly. And they will be used to fund the ecosystem and reward active participants. The entire point is that like most tokens have two purposes, like most L1 tokens have two purposes. The first one is to create an incentives game between unrelated participants to secure the network by running nodes honestly. This is something that we actually don't have to achieve because it's already done by the Atom token via intrusion security. And so that allows us to actually focus the token design on making sure that we're allocating capital in the best possible places to create value on the chain. And that takes multiple forms. That's bringing new applications, that's attracting liquidity, creating partnerships, rewarding positive contribution to the network, be they, kind of like community events, organization, that kind of stuff. These things we can build specific infrastructure to reward and allocate capital to in order to continuously like grow the network. The other thing is that, like, obviously Neutron as a DeFi platform is going to have quite a large number of DeFi primitives. So that would be, like initially a DEX, a money market, liquid staking protocol, a stablecoin, eventually an NFT marketplace, and a lot of the other kind of like types of fundamentals. We have like a perps protocol that is looking to launch as well. And so Neutron tokens will be used as a key pair, like a key token in the liquidity of a lot of these pairs, and it will be well integrated in the rest of DeFi, meaning that you can borrow against NTRN, all of these use cases. But I think like the kind of like interesting design that we've opted for is we're working on what we call voting vaults or voting modules, which essentially allow you to participate in governance with tokens that you have deployed in DeFi, rather than locking your tokens out of DeFi just for the sake of being able to vote on stuff. The idea here is that we're actually reconciling the two. You don't have to choose anymore. You can be doing both. So, for example, you could get voting power by depositing NTRN Atom liquidity tokens, or you could be getting voting power from depositing, let's say, Mars NTRN, which is NTRN deposited in Mars protocol or another lending protocol, and get voting power for the NTRN that underlies this position. And then that allows you to, get the yield from your DeFi position, whilst also getting the voting power that you deserve in order to participate in the governance of the zone. And the effects of this is that we're avoiding locking capital in an unproductive manner. So we're making governance more efficient, and we're stimulating the ecosystem, and we're making it more inclusive in terms of like the governance participation, because usually there's a bit of a discrepancy between the very, very, very large holders who are able to have consequential voting power in the system, and then the smaller holders who are forced into making a choice between getting some yield on their assets or being able to use them for governance. And because governance usually is at a cost for the user, and because it doesn't generate much in like usually, or it doesn't do so in a sustainable manner, where with the system we're reconciling all of this and making sure that there's good representation, it's capital efficient to be part of governance, and everyone gets to voice their power.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful. So I know you had just mentioned a DEX. And so will the chain, I mean, not the chain, will the DEX have a cross-chain liquidity natively, or will they be utilizing something like layer zero?
Also, layer zero in this case is not needed, because we already have an infrastructure here that provides all of its services and more, and in a more trust minimized manner, as far as I know. And so, whilst I don't think that it's reasonable to say that at launch the DEX will already have all of this kind of like set up, because this is, like, these systems are complex and you don't want to rush them. You want to make them very robust when you launch them, so that they are able to like, the point of going cross chain and managing your liquidity across chain is that you're able to service multiple markets and allocate your supply where there is demand in order to maximize the fees for the LP, the experience, the trading experience for the traders, all of this, right? But this benefit can be negated very quickly if you botch it and there's a big problem and you get exploited or that kind of stuff, right? So I think this is the kind of thing where the DEX itself, like just the part of the protocol that we're accustomed to, which is facilitating trades on one chain, will be like very quickly after launch. But the cross-chain architecture that allows it to take liquidity from one chain and then essentially make it so that that liquidity is available anywhere it's needed in the system, will take time, because there's a lot of architecture design and research and engineering work that needs to be done in order to make sure that this is done as efficiently and as securely as possible. Yeah.
Beautiful, brother. Beautiful, man. I'm absolutely loving what I'm hearing. And from the things that you've said, would it be too much to say? I know you had mentioned a stable coin. That stable coin, would it be paired with the Neutron token and have some sort of activity like Luna had with UST? Or is this something that is going to use the SDK that Neutron used and essentially be the stablecoin across all the Cosmos. And it really seems like you guys are, to my assumption, building somewhat like an ETH L2. Am I correct on that? Given that, like, you had mentioned things like money markets and things like Aave being built into it, and DeFi perpetuals, things like that. And you know, essentially, you guys are building Neutron as its own ecosystem, yeah?
Yeah, that's correct. So it's not an L2 in that it's actually an entire blockchain. So it has its own validator set. It has a consensus layer and an application layer. It doesn't settle to another blockchain. It settles to its own state. And so it's not a layer two, although we're doing research and around layer twos and how to scale Neutron over the long time. It's just a L1 that has a very, very tight relationship with another L1 that it inherits staked assets and a validator set from. So that's kind of the first thing. There was a bunch of questions there. One of them was, so you mentioned like Aave. I didn't say that Aave itself would be launching on Neutron, although that may happen.
I meant like an Aave sort of protocol, like a lending market.
Yeah, a money market, yeah, for sure.
And
for sure.
I'm aware that with Aave V2 they're going to be having the GHO stablecoin, and essentially you're going to be paid via GHO given the amount of collateral that you post on Aave. So as far as the stablecoin goes on Neutron, is there any development on that, or is it currently
that's pretty good. So the first thing is that, like, making a decentralized stablecoin is probably one of the most important technical and ideological achievement that this space needs to produce in the 10 next years, in my personal opinion. But it's also a tremendously difficult challenge, right? The closest that we've come so far are kind of like CDP stablecoins like Maker and DAI. And until a couple of months ago, USDC looked pretty good at, like, UST looked pretty good as well. But both of these models have kind of like drawbacks. On the one hand, for DAI, it's just not scalable because you need demand for leverage in order to be able to supply and actually like be a reasonably sized stablecoin to serve as the backbone for an economy, right? So that's the first and very important like limitation there, on top of like the technical complexity. Luna's tokenomics were like a very bold experiment that I think did a lot of things right. And we hear a lot about like whether or not it was a manipulation and stuff. I think regardless, like obviously it's a bit of a tragedy what happened on Terra, and Terra used to be a very, very interesting ecosystem and one that I actually spent a lot of time interacting with. But I think still like the mechanism itself wasn't robust enough, and so I'm looking forwards to like other projects kind of like taking all of the lessons from all of the experiments that have been done and conducted on the stablecoin design to try and find the sweet spot between scalability, robustness, and decentralization, right? Because we need a stablecoin that cannot be sent circle in just one transaction. We need one that can actually scale to meet the demand of an entire digital economy, and we need one that we can have confidence that it will retain the value that it's supposed to have over time. So unfortunately, I don't think that's something that's been entirely solved yet. There's a lot of like promising projects, and we're looking out for this. I think in the short term, the reasonable kind of like short-term solution is that native USDC will be launching on the Cosmos Hub around the time that Neutron launches, and so as a kind of like non-censorship and somewhat centralized solution that works in the short term. That being said, once there is a robust, scalable, decentralized stablecoin available, and hopefully, that's something that will be born on Neutron itself. Like this is something we're doing a lot of research around. We don't have the pretension that we'll be the ones to figure it out, but if there is a team looking to build a good stablecoin and they want to talk to us, they're very, very welcome to do so. Our DMs are open. So like once there is an alternative, we'll adopt it. and we're also taking proactive steps to try and make it come to existence, essentially.
Beautiful, brother. So I forgot to ask this when we started the space, but some of our listeners are completely new to this side of crypto, more of like the broader Web3 stuff, like on Cosmos, etc. How long has Neutron been in development? And also, I know you had mentioned Terra, and a lot of those builders are among the best. So with Terra V2, building out their infrastructure in the next 2 years, is there any sort of like partnership where those builders help you guys out to build these other protocols built on top of Neutron?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I actually so first the thing is like we're very close to a lot of the team we're building on Terra. I agree 100% that like a lot of the protocols were doing things right on Terra before. Like obviously there was a lot of it was built on top of Anchor's yield, right? But that doesn't remove the fact that a lot of the DeFi complexity that was there, like what you could actually do with the assets of the ecosystem were really interesting. The UX across the ecosystem was really, really good. And so these are things that we're learning from for sure. We have very close relationship with a lot of the best teams that we're building on Terra. And so I would expect that a significant portion of the best protocols will either kind of like deploy satellites or like outposts on Neutron and be part of our ecosystems in this way, or either, and probably in a lot of cases, actually move to Neutron as its kind of like headquarter, essentially.
Beautiful, brother. I've got some questions. I've got some questions rolling in. I see we have our buddy Payne here. What's going on, Payne? How are you doing today, my man?
Doing great, man. How about yourself? Accidentally disconnected for a second, but we're back
It's
in
all
here.
good, brother. It's all good, brother. We finally have Neutron up on a space. This has been a couple of months in the making. So, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I wanted to ask. So, like, I was reading the thread on Neutron that you guys have penned, and I would say like, how is it? Just as like a general question, how is it easier or quote unquote better for devs to build on like something like Neutron rather than Ethereum?
Well, so obviously there are trade-offs, right? Ethereum is by far the most secure proof of stake blockchain out there currently, so it's difficult to compete on that front alone. It's also where a tremendous amount of liquidity sits, and where probably like most of the attention and hype and like the largest community currently exist, right? So we don't expect that Ethereum itself will like. I mean, I don't know. Personally, I don't believe that like EVM competition will be able to displace Ethereum, at
Yeah,
least
for sure.
not in the short term. Um, I, I do think that Ethereum is likely to remain kind of like the market leader in terms of small contract platforms. But that being said, what we're seeing is that there's also not a complete homogenization of the industry, right? Not everything is moving to Ethereum, and on the contrary, it's actually kind of like going the other way around. There's a lot of alternative platforms that have emerged. Some of them are kind of like EVM plus a few technical improvements, but a lot of them are actually kind of like rebuilding the stack and trying to address, like make different design trade-offs or address some of the issues that Ethereum had. And a lot of them have actually successfully bootstrapped their own communities, their own communities of dApps and teams building on them, and attracted significant liquidity, right? And so as a result of this, like it doesn't look like we're headed to a monochain world. It looks like we're headed to a multi-chain world where we probably have a market leader, which is Ethereum, and then a collection of slightly smaller chains that are still meaningful and relevant, right? The thing though is that Ethereum currently has done basically zero work on how to integrate and how to work with other chains so that its ecosystem and the like decentralized application on top of it can like access these other markets that represent a significant share of the value, right? And so basically what we're doing is that we are building a platform that doesn't actually need to compete and be exclusive with other platforms, but that instead uses the ability to be present in all the markets that your dApp wants to be in, as the competitive advantage. Basically, it's like if you decide to deploy on Neutron rather than another Cosmos chain or another smart contract platform, you're basically choosing that you don't want to choose. You want to be able to be everywhere and get benefits from all of these markets by approaching them strategically, essentially. So that's kind of like one of the main differences. Now, in terms of like what Neutron brings at a very low level to develop, there's a few things. Like the first one is it brings the security of a top 10 proof of stake blockchain. So it's not Ethereum, but it's pretty damn close. And it reduces the overhead of developers significantly. The first one is that if you compare it to the rest of Cosmos, building applications as chains themselves is a very powerful idea, but it's also a ton of overhead. The average engineering time currently is about 9 months. And so, smart contract itself makes the process like way faster. There's also great like tooling and libraries that are available to the developers. Neutron makes their work way easier because they don't have to bootstrap a validator set, but also because they don't have to build all of the cross-chain infrastructure that they would need to have this strategic approach to the fragmented market that is the multi-chain world that we're in, basically. We're providing all of this out of the box, so that the only thing that you have to care about really is design your protocol so that it's the best product possible, and so that you have like less chances of reaching product market fit and then capturing as much of the market share as possible. Basically, you don't have to care about the chain itself. You don't have to care about the infrastructure. You don't have to care about like reinventing the tooling and the libraries. They're already there, so you can focus on the product. These are kind of like some of the initial points, I guess.
Okay, so we have our buddy Premise here. Premise, is there anything that you want to ask the Neutron team or give some feedback to anything that they said? It's good to have you up here, brother.
Yo, thanks, man. Now I'm actually kind of just listening and learning more than anything. I'm a trader, so my questions would lean towards stuff like exchange listings and stuff. If it's a token that's going to be available somewhere, or how to access it.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's always a bit tricky to actually go in technical detail, and especially details on the market of a token before it's launched, for a wide variety of reasons, including legal reasons. But there will be a public of Neutron in any case because of the nature of these centralized networks. I guess that's basically as much as I can say for now. But I'll be looking forward to being able to share more once everything is set up and there aren't the same kind of like regulatory friction or something.
What's up, Bando? Yo, Bandemic, you there?
I guess seem like it.
Yeah, man. So, speaking more of the token, would you be able to give us like what the tokenomics look like? Like, how much Neutron is staying for marketing and development purposes? How much is going to be issued to the open market, like DEXs, et cetera, et cetera?
I mean, like that's technically like that's specifically the information that I can't really because it may be a risk essentially.
No problem, man. No problem, brother. No problem, man. It's all good. I don't want to get you in trouble or anything like that. But it's all good.
Is that like all of this will be on chain anyway? Like a lot of the we're basically trying to have a fairly decentralized approach to the entire setup of Neutron and its legal entities, and so all of these will be on chain and available to everyone to console as soon as like Neutron is live. So I invite you to check it out.
I will, brother. I will. And what's the estimate on the Neutron platform going live?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we're basically right now finalizing the code base. We should be done before the holidays. Before we launch, we do have a couple of steps to complete after the code base finalization, which are first, we want to make sure that we're ensuring the highest degree of security possible. So we'll be submitting the code base to yet another audit. That in parallel, the intrusion security as a technology itself will be getting onto the hub by a governance proposal. Governance proposals on the Cosmos Hub are fairly long; they're about 4 weeks, and so like this process will take a bit of time. As soon as that technology is available, we will be making our own proposal in order to launch the blockchain with, in conjunction with the Cosmos Hub and its validator set, meaning that that's 4 weeks more, and that brings us to roughly March 2023, essentially.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful. And how long has Neutron been in development? Like how has that process been like to go from concept and to the final stages of development?
It's been a wild ride, mostly because of the context. Like 2022 has been an eventful year. I think we've been working on Neutron for about 8 months now. Yeah.
How did it come together?
So our team previously was our team is from P2P, which is an industry leading validator, and our team specifically was a sub team at the company that was that implemented and ran Lido on Terra on behalf of the Lido DAO. And so while we were running Lido on Terra, we were kind of like researching as well. Like Lido on Terra was very successful. It was like once a $8 to $10 billion protocol. And that was a really, really cool experiment, and we never had a security issue as well, which is something that I guess we take pride in. And so like as we were kind of like building out this protocol and its integrations, building like metastable pools and other kind of like developments in Terra, we were also looking at like how do you actually make liquid staking for Cosmos, right? From an architecture and design perspective, like what does that actually look like? Because the way that traditionally liquid staking is expanded was you just take a set of smart contract and you adapt it to new blockchains and you redeploy it, right? In Cosmos, this approach meets its limitations. First, not every blockchain supports smart contracts, but also, if Cosmos is going to be even remotely successful, the number of chains that are going to launch over time are just going to be like way too much for you to basically make a new protocol every time you want to onboard a chain, essentially. And so there needed to be a better architecture for this. And so we were kind of like looking at the trade-offs of the design space. There's a few reasons why we didn't want to build it as an app chain. And the first one being that like there were two things that like first there is a very like kind of like dangerous risk with building your liquid staking protocol as an app chain with basically your governance, like your token does both the governance and the security of the zone, right? So if ever in the early stages of your protocol, when your market cap is not that high and you're in a way a bit more vulnerable, there is a chance if you're very successful but don't have that kind of like market cap yet, there is that somebody who could just capture your token, redelegate your stake away to a malicious validator or basically their validator, and then shut down the entire system, which would prevent rapid recovery and potentially do a lot of damage to the rest of the ecosystem. And liquid staking is this kind of product that touches the heart of the blockchain, and so we think that with great power comes great responsibility. So that's something we wanted to avoid, and that's what brought us, like one of the reasons that brought us smart contracts, beyond the fact that they're just way easier to ship, faster, easier to audit. They're more secure to audit as well because they're less kind of like custom than blockchains themselves. There's more standardization and tooling and stuff that you can use to actually make sure that they're done in good practices and that they're working. And that led us to like look at the smart contract kind of like landscape in Cosmos, and essentially there was no smart contract platform that was suitable to the project. Some of them did not have the security that such a large scale project needed. In some of these platforms, we had reached 10% of the market share of one blockchain, just the Cosmos Hub, and not the entire ecosystem. We would already have had more TVL than the entire like proof of stake, like value staked on that blockchain. So essentially, we would have started turning into a honeypot. None of the blockchains had the infrastructure that we needed, that this protocol needed. The ability to execute transactions, control accounts on other blockchains, retrieve data from these other blockchains in order to make sure that your operations are efficient. And the last point was that there is a degree of ecosystem alignment and neutrality that is required for such a protocol to be well accepted by the blockchain's ecosystem that it provides its services to. And like it was difficult to find the right place for this because like Terra, for example, was obviously a very dynamic ecosystem, but at the same time, because it had been kind of like siloed from the rest of Cosmos for a long time, it felt like if someone attempted to build cross-chain liquid for the entire Cosmos, then that would probably be something that the rest of the Cosmos community would take, a bit of offense from, because it would deal very, very closely to their security as communities and technologies from, an ecosystem that traditionally had not been like that close of a partner. And so we needed to have a chain that, like basically we as we were looking at this, we just realized that like, wait, we're facing these pain points, right, in this protocol that we were researching. And, most probably like liquid staking is not the only type of protocol that actually has these limitations, right? Most protocols that are going to be significant DeFi protocols need security. Most protocols that are significant cross-chain protocols need the cross-chain infrastructure to make it work. Most developers don't want to be forced into situations where they have to rewrite code that already exists in production and works fine for their uses. And most protocols also benefit from a platform that is somewhat credibly neutral and that is going to give a level playing field for their applications to compete with other applications and not just like pick the winner. And so all of these pain points led us to realize that there was a gap in the market. And that's why, we're like, well, actually, this is the primitive that Cosmos needs in order to finally grow a very dynamic and interesting kind of like DeFi ecosystem, right? We're going to make it faster to build DeFi protocols. We're going to allow all of the applications that already exist to come together and combine with this ecosystem that will be born on the chain in order to make it like way more interesting and versatile to be doing DeFi in Cosmos. And we're going to make sure that we're doing this in a way that is efficient for the builders and secure for everyone.
Well, shoot, you kind of answered my my second question.
that was a good alpha.
That was a banger of an answer.
Yo, let's go.
Yeah, I was gonna ask what made you guys choose Cosmos over other chains, but you basically answered that, so it's all good, man.
Man, so go ahead, Payne. You're go ahead, man.
Oh no.
I don't want to cut you off, bro, because once I start going, there's no stop. There's no
No,
stop.
you can go ahead, bro. It's all good. I didn't.
So I think the most important part that you guys have been expressing is security, and when it comes to interoperability, security is the main pinpoint to be aware of. And I know you guys use some sort of like Merkle, like some Merkle, I believe it's pronounced Merkle, when it pertains, to the transparency of like, how the tokens are going to be used and this and that. So, with that being said, I think one thing that can be built on the Cosmos, especially using the infrastructure that you guys are building out, is perhaps things like the GameFi and Metaverse, where security has to be the number one thing to be focused on. And I think that with you guys having a substantial amount of Atom to secure the hub, um, I think there's a possibility where you guys can capture a lot of that, hard development. So with that being said, are there any teams that have contacted you guys to see if a metaverse or some sort of GameFi like Gala Games can be built on top of the Neutron infrastructure?
So we have early chats with some projects, but I think basically the main thing right now is that, like, in terms of the security, you're right. Like, Neutron perfectly fits the bill there. The other thing, though, that is really, really important for a game is kind of like very low latency, so that your UX can be really, really good, and you don't, you're playing a game, not playing a game that is also built on a blockchain that you need to wait 15 seconds to get finality from for every transaction that you're going to be making in that game, right? And I think, like, Cosmos, Neutron by Cosmos chain standards with, like 5 to 7 second block time on average, is going to be somewhat fast. Like, I mean, Cosmos as a whole is already somewhat fast. It's okay to transact on Cosmos. Neutron, where, lowering the commit timeout, meaning that the validators on Neutron will be sitting idle and waiting less, and that the block time will be faster, which is already a UX improvement. But if we really want to make games that really rock, right, we need two things. We need to improve on two things, which we're working on. The first one is we need way faster block time and fast finality, so that you sign your transaction in your game. You don't want to have a loading screen, basically. You want it to work instantly. So fast finality here is important. Low latency is important. And the second one is you also don't want your game to be impacted by the rest of the activity that is happening on the chain, right? So if there's an NFT mint and you're doing a raid or whatever, you don't want to be lagging in your transaction, like in the middle of your game experience, because somebody else is minting NFTs, right? And so rather than trying hard to break all of the kind of like scalability and performance like limitations of Tendermint at the L1 layer itself, we're doing like some improvements at this level, but mostly what we're working on is a really good rollup framework that will allow you to access application-specific rollups on top of Neutron, so that if you want to build a game, you can do so in a way where you still retain interoperability with the entire Cosmos ecosystem and the entire IBC ecosystem, but you do so in an environment where, one, you inherit the security and the decentralization of the full validator set of Neutron in the Cosmos Hub, and you get fast finality and kind of like provable validity from the way that the rollup itself works, whilst getting consistent block time, no congestions, because your block space is dedicated, the execution layer's block space is dedicated to your application. And so that I think is a way to trade off for games. And so we're not focusing on games right now. Obviously, it's a permissionless smart contract platform. Any project that wants to build anything is welcome to come and do it on Neutron. If you're interested in, if you have a game project and you're interested in talking to us, once again, our DMs are open. But I think when Neutron starts really making sense for these projects is when we ship this rollup framework, at which point it just, becomes one of the best places to do that, basically.
Perfect, man. And when you guys launch, is it gonna be like Osmosis had their launch, where you had the Stargate proposal, and a couple of months later, the Osmo token went live with the DEX. Is it gonna be like that? And also, I know back last summer, whenever a new token would launch on Osmosis, essentially like the user was able to participate in that launch. So with things being incubated on Neutron itself, will there also be similar processes to that, like exclusively launching on the Neutron chain? Will it be working like that by any chance?
Do you mean as a launchpad for other projects? Like
Yeah,
for
I
ecosystem?
yeah.
I think that's
You
so
go, brother. I think there's like some sort of relay, but you go ahead. You go ahead first.
yeah. So, like, given the market and given the nature of what it takes to build a DeFi ecosystem, I think what we're headed towards is a bit of a staged launch where Neutron launches. Most probably, the means of governance will be available to people like kind of like at launch, so that this allows us to set up a lot of the infrastructure and systems of the blockchain together as a community, and really engage people with the project over time, rather than do like one big thing and then basically nothing for a while. It's still bear market. And so instead, what I think makes a lot of sense is to basically keep the momentum going by making sure that there's something new to be doing and that the builders have the appropriate amount of time to really make these protocols really good, by kind of like staging them over time so that there's always something new to do, there's always more utility to get, and the governance itself has the time to start setting up some of the foundations. But also Neutron is a bit of a different governance system. It's all implemented as a smart contract. Like as a set of smart contracts, it's based on DAO's implementation, which is really, really cool. We're basically doing a enshrined DAO governance with a few tweaks that allow us to have kind of like the main governance layer that is a bit defensive in nature, but have so it's hard to pass something through it. But then you have like submodules and sub DAOs that are autonomous, like that have authority to perform certain actions, and we just enforce accountability via a short time log. And that allows us to have, for example, a grants program that is run entirely by the people that are on that board, but that is still accountable to the main governance. And so setting up these instances is going to take a little bit of work initially, but we expect that they will be a tremendous force in driving like the growth of the ecosystem itself, providing fundings to like smaller teams that may be starting out, bringing some of the existing projects to the zone, all that kind of good stuff. Now, in terms of like launching other, like how the launches of other protocols will happen, I think that's mostly a question for the builders themselves. Like surely the infrastructure to do that on Neutron will be there. But whether they choose to launch it on Neutron or if they want to do it on another platform or perhaps on an off-chain platform or perhaps on Osmosis or whatever their choices are, basically what matters to us is that we want to make the dApps that launch on us as successful as possible. That's kind of like what we optimize for.
Perfect, man. Thank you. I got a question from our audience, and they DM'd me asking if you guys have any integration with Say.
Well, so as far as I know, Say is going to be connected to IBC, which means that like, yes, basically we have all the infrastructure to be able to work with Say. And I think the really cool thing is that like we're making very different design choices here. Say is optimizing for performance, low latency, high throughput. And what they're doing in this regard is fairly interesting. We're optimizing for different things. And so with the infrastructure that we're building, the cool thing is that we can actually work with them and gain their strength for protocols that launch on us, because essentially we can coordinate instances that, if part of your protocol needs to be very, very fast and have fast finality, you can have it on Say, but still govern it and your other deployments via Neutron. And so you could imagine protocols that actually extend to specific chains in order to better suit the needs of specific parts of their applications, and then you can coordinate all of this through Neutron's infrastructure.
Beautiful, man. And one thing that we still haven't touched on is Oracle solutions. With Neutron, will you guys be using any oracles such as Chainlink, or will you guys be using something like Band Protocol?
Well, I mean, I think diversity of option is a good thing here. Band is a very low-hanging fruit in the sense that we can basically just spin up an IBC channel and then start retrieving data from their blockchain. So that's that's a fairly easy step. Chainlink typically takes more time to come around to making an implementation. Like we saw that, for example, in Cosmos with Terra. Chainlink was working on that, but it like literally the blockchain imploded before they were able to actually ship it. There's another one which is likely to become available, which is Peace Network, which was on Solana, but I believe that they're now, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe that they may be moving through their own chain now. But anyway, so like that would also be something that potentially could either be brought through Wormhole, or if they make their own chain through a bridge that may be IBC there. But I think like more importantly, the whole point of us implementing interesting queries is that in a lot of circumstances, you actually don't need the Oracle anymore. The problem with the oracles is that they're a very, very crucial part of your protocol, and they're one that you're basically trusting a third-party entity to provide you with the right data, right? You're trusting somebody else to provide you with your view on the world and the market before you make a decision, right? And so like this is a very of most DeFi protocols, and it's a trusted one, which is far from ideal, and it's also something that is prone to manipulations. So we solve this in, when it comes to other like data from other blockchains by implementing interchain queries, meaning that on Neutron, as long as we have an IBC channel to another blockchain, we can essentially read the data directly from the blockchain, like from your blockchain storage, from your blockchain state, and retrieve the data plus proofs for it, which can be brought back to Neutron, verified using the proofs, and then processed in order to be in the data structures that the business side protocol, like smart contracts, need in order to function. And this can be done pretty reliably and pretty and basically entirely permissionlessly. The only thing that needs to be there is IBC, and so that means that at launch we'll be able to retrieve data permissionlessly and trustlessly from about 50 blockchains, and that over time, as IBC expands, this will also become available for like Ethereum, Near and Polkadot are being worked on right now as well, and I would expect that with Polymer and Composable continuing their work, that this would essentially eventually contain the entire Web3, basically. So the ability to see what's going on all chains.
For the interchain accounts, say like if I want to bridge my AVAX or I want to bridge my Bonk over to the Neutron chain, would that essentially become a wrapped asset, or would it be native to its chain, similar to what Thorchain is doing with their stuff?
So there's a few things here. Like the first one is that like IBC actually doesn't work on Avalanche, so you'd need to use some kind of bridge between IBC network as a whole and Avalanche. And so in that case, that may be, for example, has a bridge there. And so, for example, you would be sending your tokens through XLR, so it would become XLR wrapped asset, and then over IBC. There may be ways though that we can improve this over time. IBC itself is interesting because it isolates the risk. Like one of the main risks of bridges is that you can compound the kind of like outstanding balances of all chains by just like looping assets around and just like moving them across and like back and forth through multiple chains and multiple bridges, and you just basically increase the balance sheet. IBC doesn't allow you to do this, which is introduces very little bit of friction in that you can't, for example, take one asset, move it through 50 chains, and then use it in DeFi because it becomes like somewhat non-fungible at this point. But it's sufficient for basically almost all use cases in DeFi. I think still that this is something that like we're going to see some innovation around. One of them being token factory, so that rather than using smart contract based token, basically we can mint them on that chain and use native representations instead.
And when you guys launch, are you going to have a native wallet? And in that native wallet, will we be able to exchange interchain assets, like swap my Neutron to Atom or to Osmo? Will we have access to that right at launch?
So, I mean, basically, most of the wallets that exist in Cosmos today will be supported on Neutron. The like largest one, I guess, largest ones being, I guess, like Cosmos Station wallet and Kepler, obviously. So, it basically depends on like how fast they can ship the integrations, right? Like some of these features, like being able to swap like directly in the wallet, are already live in some of these wallets. They're pretty cool. We're working with them in order to make sure that all of the relevant protocols from our ecosystem are also like available directly through the wallets. That like includes like liquid staking, trading, and perhaps even one day like lending and borrowing or that kind of like more complex products. But so yeah, like you will definitely be able to like, manage assets from Neutron as well as other chains, and you'll be able to perform at launch, like I would imagine, a limited set of action, probably just like trading, and then over time it will be expanded to like being able to stake through the wallet, being able to like trade through various pools, or even have like routers to provide you with the best kind of like trading opportunities across the entire Cosmos, rather than just like one chain that you choose as a parameter, that kind of stuff.
So essentially, it's like a full Web3 wallet where eventually you'll be able to interact with all the protocols built with Neutron. So, say like there's a protocol that's working on that itself, right? Would that be possible? Say, I open up the wallet and there's a clean UI where I'm able to transfer my Neutron out of my wallet onto a lending protocol, borrow against it, and then say, go on Stargaze, right, or an NFT platform that's built on top of Neutron. With the current infrastructure, would Neutron be able to support that activity?
Yeah. I mean, like that's kind of like the whole point. I just want to clarify like two things. Like the first one is that like we're actually not building, at least for now, a wallet ourselves, right? So there's like there are good products available already, and it's very difficult to kind of like catch up to this whilst also building a blockchain and a few other things in a credible manner. So like we're currently not doing this. We'll be working with like other partners to make sure that their wallets are supporting all of the cross-chain activity that will now exist in Cosmos as best as possible, which is a way more manageable way to basically bring it to all of the users in the best way possible. Now, what more importantly, the thing is like we don't actually need the wallet to do much. We just need them to display the information of what's going on in a somewhat legible manner to humans, because the whole point is that with Neutron's infrastructure, one, the user doesn't have to care, and two, so basically, currently the complexity is at the user level. Right now, if I want to take assets from one zone, go onto another zone, swap them, and then provide them as liquidity, all of these transactions I need to do myself, right? Now, one way to solve this problem is to abstract it to the application layer so that the small contracts that I use are able to do this, right? Currently in Cosmos, that means re-implementing an entire cross-chain infrastructure in order for your smart contract to provide this little service, right? It's not viable. But because we provide this infrastructure, we actually abstract away the complexity that we just abstracted away to the application layer, and we take it and we put it at the infrastructure layer instead, which we've implemented. And so what that does is that it's now very easy for anybody to come onto Neutron, ship a very simple smart contract that essentially allows you to perform that kind of actions. So you can even have like sequences of stuff like, let's say I want to provide liquidity on Osmosis. I can make a very simple smart contract that takes my token deposit and swaps it to like 50% of it to the denomination that I specified, and then provides this in liquidity and then returns the LP to my wallet on Neutron, right? And I can do this by basically like signing one transaction, and all the steps are taken by my contract. So that I basically I give my approval with that happening, and then I just wait for the result, and I don't have to do everything manually. Like the same can be done for NFTs, right? You can make smart contracts. You can even make like limit order kind of like smart contracts for these, where you basically deposit some of your assets into a smart contract on Neutron, and then they're looking out via interchain queries for the best price for your NFT. And as soon as it matches the price that you said you were willing to pay for a specific NFT, then it just like purchases it and then returns it to your wallet on Neutron. I mean, like those are like two very small possibilities on top of like everything that is possible. But basically, because now you can abstract away the complexity from the user, you can just like rekindle the entire like Cosmos DeFi user experience, make it way more approachable and way easier and more convenient to use, and make sure that like all of these come together in one zone where they can also synchronously compose with other protocols, so that the emergent properties of being able to instantly access liquidity in order to perform like arbitrage trades and stuff like this like become possible as well within this ecosystem.
Man, look, you've been singing music to my ears, bro. I'm loving everything you're saying. I'm so excited to use you in a few months. I'm sorry, use the chain, not use you. Excuse my language. But man, it seems like you had a good breakfast. It seems like you had a good breakfast, and you decided to hop on with King Wabi and friends on a late night and talk shop, man. So I want to pivot and ask you, my man, what'd you have for breakfast, brother? It seems like you share the same enthusiasm as myself as a fellow cosmonaut. And yes, I'm using cringe Web3 terminology because I'm cool like that. So, what'd you have for breakfast, brother?
Absolutely nothing. Well, a little bit of nicotine, I guess. I live in Thailand, right? Which is on UTC +7. That means I have like a fairly large time discrepancy with most of our team and a lot of the teams that we work with. And so like to compensate this, I kind of like shift my work times to like much later in the day. So, yesterday I finished working, like I started working at like around midday and finished working at around like 2 a.m. Slept for like 5 hours or something, and then had to wake up for an investor call this morning. So I feed on the enthusiasm that I have for this project. Like I really believe that what we're building is something that, one, is extremely cool in its own rights, and two, that will help us make Cosmos like way cooler as well. And so that keeps me going basically. And talking to cool people is also like a big one, right? Like for all the questions today, I think they like you have a kind of like I like that you have been asking all of the questions that I myself would have cared about as a degen. I also use cringe terminology when approaching a protocol. So that's not the approach that we've had on most of the spaces, and that's refreshing in a way. We're talking about different things. I like it.
Yeah, man. Like anytime I speak to crypto native people on spaces, I like to treat them like humans, bro, not just feed me alpha, feed me alpha. I think I think right now, like in the Web3 space, there's a great demand for I guess like people persons or people whatever you want to call it. And yeah, man, this has been in the works for a few months, and I'm excited to have you guys on here. Um, one thing that I've always loved about Cosmos is that the entire development team, no matter if it's Java, no matter if it's Thorchain, no matter if it's Osmosis or Juno, what have you, or even Terra. You guys always look forward. You guys don't look side to side to see what other chains are doing. You guys focus on yourselves, and that's why you guys have built killer products. And even after the calamity that occurred in May back with Terra, the chain still worked perfectly fine. We had a stable coin break, and Osmosis was still functioning. Juno was still functioning. Thorchain was still functioning. Everything that used the Cosmos SDK was perfectly fine, and that's something that should be acknowledged. And the bridging experience is absolutely beautiful, and I can't wait to use the product. But I know I've been asking like my own bias type questions, so I'll ask a more of a general question for yourself, right? What do you think is a killer application that should be built on Neutron? Whether it's a perp swap, whether it's like an NFT swap, um, or more maybe something like sort of like a maker DAO on Cosmos. Like, what do you think is the killer application that could be built on Neutron?
Well, I mean, like, it's not like there's only one, but I'll randomly sort through the things that come to my brain right now and like tell you one of the things that I think would be really, really cool. So like one of the, in this period of like removing this complexity, like this whole trend of thoughts comes from the fact that this industry is technologically complex. It's difficult to use. There's a like very high learning curve, and some of the projects that have done that have added, I guess, quite a bit of value have been projects that build on the ecosystems a specific way to approach them in a way more comprehensive, like comprehensible and an easy and manageable kind of like way, right? So you can think about it as like, how's it called? Like, it's not DeFi server. Like there's this protocol on Ethereum, like you can basically like have specific positions on Aave that you can zap into, or you can like stake your ETH or whatever, right? It's I forgot the name of the project. I'm sorry, but basically, like think
okay.
about it. Yeah, it's essentially an interface that allows you to access other protocols in a very neat way, but also to automatically kind of like get into positions that you may be interested in, and they give you all of the information that you need as a kind of like, either an investor or a degen, depending on how seriously you take yourself for. But they allow you to do all of this in a very low amount of transactions. They give you all the information that you need and automate as much of the process as possible, right? So this is cool on Ethereum ecosystem because there are a lot of protocols in the Ethereum ecosystem, and you may not have like visibility across all of the opportunities that you could find, right? Now, imagine this, but that is not at the scale of Ethereum itself. That is at the scale of the entire IBC network and eventually the entire like Web3 network, basically. Then what you get is something that probably like the most advanced users would still like go on and actively seek out opportunities like directly from every protocol, but all of the entrants to this space, rather than have to like figure out protocol after protocol because they like before they can actually make decisions, they can have all of the information they need and the access to these opportunities like way more approachable interface that now, on top of just like gathering that information and allowing you to access it, also handles everything about the cross-chain transactions so that you don't even need to care about this anymore. You just need to, read the line that says like which blockchain you're trusting, and then if you're fine with this, you click on the button and that's it. I think that's one of the many ideas that of things that could be built.
That sounds awesome, man. I believe in you. I believe in you, brother. You guys are building something insane that has been needed in Cosmos for a long time. But without further ado, I see we have my boy New Bro. What's up, New Bro? How are you doing today, my man? Yeah.
Being very calm today.
Payne, what's up, brother? Do you have any more questions for the Neutron team?
Not at the moment, man. I'm just chilling.
I'm gonna have to hop off in like 5 to 10 minutes. So I think perhaps what
yeah, we're wrapping
if
up.
nobody has questions, what we can do is just like invite everyone to, if you have a question, like maybe try and request the ability to speak, and then happy to take some time to answer these. Make sure that we have a good chat with everybody here, and then I'll just have to like really hop for another call.
Yeah, no problem, man. Yeah, so if anyone here wants to talk, feel free to press that request button and come on up. And just a reminder for you guys, I do have a link for the Discord up on the Nest. Feel free to join me and the other Because Bitcoin community. We're always active there. We have Discord of over 800 members. And also be sure to go on our YouTube if you're a new listener and came late. Definitely the chat that we've had with the Neutron team has been absolutely valuable. Thank you so much for the time, guys. And, we look forward to hearing more from you in the coming months. I'm really excited for what you guys are building. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. And yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited that we were finally able to do this. And I gotta say, bro, I gotta say, I really think you guys are the killer app for the Cosmos chain. Have you guys done other spaces before, or is this kind of like the first space where you guys have been public?
Yeah, I mean, we do a lot of spaces, but I think one of the things that sort of made us really want to come and talk to you guys was it's just a bit of a different crowd. Like I see some familiar faces down there, but obviously, like I know you from the Terra spaces and the Cephii spaces and all that kind of stuff. And I know you're really into DeFi, so I thought it'd be a really good fit, and that you'd enjoy the chat with Spade.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to have a chat like today. I think, like I don't have anything else to say than like let's just do this again anytime.
Yeah, I think it's been really good. And also, like you asked before about like potential killer apps and potential things that you can do with Neutron. I've just shared in the chat a link to our Neutron in a nutshell thread, and you'll find stuff in there about ideas for a particular AMM DEX. All these kind of ideas that could potentially be built on Neutron. I think you should, you might enjoy taking a read of that.
Yeah, and actually, like what's kind of funny about these threads is that they've been intentionally designed to have very, very, very minimal approaches, right? So like we're not gonna deploy any other smart contracts on another chain, for example. But if you allow yourself a bit more flexibility in the design, when you combine the infrastructure that we provide plus like potentially a few smart contracts on other blockchains, like they are like just like mind-numbing protocols. Actually,
That sounds
so
awesome.
kind of like a head start, I guess.
I look forward to hearing you guys more across spaces, and yeah, I like to hop on Cefi's spaces from time to time. He's a very knowledgeable individual when it comes to everything IBC, and I'm hoping there's some sort of integration with Terra V2. I think a collaboration in the future in some manner would be absolutely phenomenal. I think you guys are gonna make some solid impact. But I see someone came up, my boy Babel. He's a BB Chad. What's going on, my man? Do you have any statements or questions that you want to add?
I mean, so I did not hear the majority of the conversation. I kind of hopped in late and was chilling with my dad watching Samurai Champloo. But I did have on a more real note, like a real question. What did you have for breakfast, Neutron?
I asked. You gotta ask our boy Soy. Is that how I pronounce it, bro? Soy.
Yeah, soy. Yeah, it means street in Thailand, so like second street, soy too. My breakfast is going to be in about 3 hours. I'm sat in Manchester in the UK at the moment, so it's like 4:25 here. So yeah, I'm thinking about sleep more than breakfast right now.
Oh, dang, man. Well, I hope you get some sleep.
Yeah, me too. But you got to make it happen, right? You got Wabi in Florida and Spade over in Bangkok. So yeah, it's just right in the middle.
Just do like 200 push-ups real quick. You'll be good.
Yeah, exactly. That's the ticket, right? Yeah.
All right, man. So I think that about wraps it up. I want to thank everyone for showing up. This is the first ever space from Because Bitcoin, presented by myself, where we finally have a crypto native project. And yes, I am biased. I love the Cosmos. I love everything IBC. Thank you so much, Neutron, for coming up on here and introducing yourselves to the Because Bitcoin community. I want to express gratitude and let you guys know that, we consider you now as family. Welcome to the club. And, once more, if you're listening to us from YouTube, be sure to like, comment any feedback, click that subscribe button, turn on bell notifications so that way you get notified when my beautiful voice gets to soothe you as we talk everything crypto. We have everything from projects, developers building on chains, native crypto Twitter community members, and we're excited to bring you guys this content. And for you guys listening here on Twitter Spaces, up on the Nest, there's a link to our Discord where you can join us. We have over 800 members, always a lively community. You can always find me there on the voice chat, and also pinned on the Nest we have Neutron explaining what they're about in an easy to digest manner. But today, for you guys, I wanted to present a quick and concise, super valuable space where you can hear it from the horse's mouth. And Neutron, Sui, thank you guys so much. I appreciate you. I'm grateful for this opportunity. And we look forward to hearing from you guys again. And for all of you who aren't following the Because Bitcoin page, please do so. I'll be hosting all of my crypto specific spaces on there Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Or when I do have special guests like today, there will be some sort of leeway either later or a bit earlier. Thank you guys so much. This is King Wabi from Because Bitcoin presenting to you the 5th episode of Crypto World Radio. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you very much. And I think that's about it, man. Thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks for that. It was great. Thanks for the questions.
I can feel the radio already. I can feel the podcast.
Exactly, man. That's what I'm talking about. All right, brother. Peace out, guys.
Good night, man.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
The trading current is just math. It's just math. It has a 95.45% hit rate when we deviate outside of CP2 and CN2. All you had to do is recognize that 95% of the time when we get over here, under this blue line, we get some sort of mean reversion. So let's just assume you long right here. 95 out of 100 times, when I buy this, I'm gonna get some sort of bounce. It's just math. Look what would have happened as we move up. Look at the bounce that came after. And now look where we are. If you had just blindly followed the current, you take all emotions out of it, and you say, I'm going to trust the statisticians, you would have bought Dow Jones somewhere down here under 30,000. You know, depending on how you want to measure it from absolute top to bottom, 20% move. We also have multi-time frame alerts. You don't even have to be at your computer on TradingView. You can ping your phone. Now, the current has some really awesome features, and I would urge you guys to join our Discord to get access to it. We give it away for free as a tool to the community. It's just math. There's really no need to overcomplicate things, not even in the slightest.